Marmaduke Mousington by Josh Kirby. Read by Stephen Briggs.
That's not written down.
Our story begins when good Queen Victoria was on the throne, smack dab in the latter half, the middle part of the 1800s. It was a time when the people were cheery and content with the dizzying progress of the age, as newfangled machines to make your life more exciting were being invented all over the place. It was in this atmosphere that Marmaduke M. Mousington lived in a comfortable house just on the edge of town. Not quite in town, but not in the country either, right in between. His country cousins would tease him for being too sophisticated, whereas his city folk cousins looked down on him for being not sophisticated enough. This caused Marmaduke quite a bit of worry, as he was very fond of his little home on the edge of town. It was not aristocratic, and neither was it rustic or dirty. It was just perfect. From his house, he could see the sunlight sparkle on the bustle of the street outside, the chimney sweeps going about their sweepy business, children scampering, shouting, crying and playing, all the while a barrel organ player made sweet, scratchy music to accompany the scene, whether people wanted him to or not. A puff of dust drifted through Marmaduke's front door. The maids came on Tuesday to spread the dust that had accumulated in the parlour around the rest of the house. It was a very sneezy occasion and a great excuse to go do something else. Or go and do something else, as we would say in England.
It's not printed yet. That settles it. Today I will put on my bestest coat, get some fresh air, and perhaps even show the maids what I'm made of.
He sauntered through his front door, out onto the street, and straight into a spinning top. He was mouse-sized, remember, so the top was rather large from his perspective. The children had surely been spinning it, and the sight made Marmaduke feel quite giddy. Circles of colour swirled, glinting in the sunlight, looming bigger and bigger, until Marmaduke himself seemed to be spinning, and was no longer sure whether he was here or there, whither or whence. Perhaps he nodded off to sleep, some sort of dizzying slumber, for, when he stopped, he was no longer at his front door, looking at the street. He was in some sort of jungle. They don't have tropical jungles in Norfolk. He had somehow left his house and was now quite elsewhere. Giant flowers and dark leaves were heaped above and below his head in a great profusion. Creepers were festooned around every tree in the way that creepers so often festoon themselves.
Goodness gracious!
Exclaimed Marmaduke, which seemed just about to cover it. He pinched himself to see if he was dreaming. He wasn't. After he finished squeaking from the pinchy pain, his chest swelled with pride.
I don't know how I arrived in this jungle, but this is certainly the furthest anyone from the Mousington family has journeyed from home. Oh, those cousins of mine are going to be so jealous when I tell them this story. I shall try not to be too surprised by anything that happens today, and just enjoy whatever adventures come my way.
He strode forward, past the monkeys and the parakeets, and what he thought was some sort of half-monkey, half-parakeet-like creature, although he couldn't be sure, until he came to a clearing. Crouching behind a shrub was a very strange gentleman indeed. His clothes didn't look like proper clothes at all. His haircut was deeply mysterious, and he was very intent on catching a butterfly between the pages of a large leather-bound book.
Ah, there you are, Marmaduke. I was wondering where you'd gone. Come, it is time we departed.
Marmaduke opened and shut his mouth several times. The questions, who are you, how do you know me, and why are your trousers like that, swam through his head. But then his earlier thought very flopped back into his mind, and he resolved to ignore his surprise and simply enjoy the adventure. So he shrugged and followed the mysterious man as he opened a shrub via some ingenious hinge mechanism, revealing a secret passageway. 7 out of every 10 shrubs conceal secret passageways, so if you haven't found any yet, keep looking. They clambered through the tunnel, down into the very depths of a mysterious spinning machine, not unlike an enormous spinning top. Inside the machine was a quaint drawing room, complete with velvet upholstery, velvet downholstery, and all manner of brass-plated ornaments and bric-a-brac. There were portholes affording magnificent views of the world outside, which one would expect to be simply dirt, as they had clearly gone underground, but against all expectations were set above the jungle, displaying magnificent views of the greenery, with splashes of reddery and purplery for contrast. And yet, looking outside as they did, no two sets of windows seemed to agree on what time of day it was. Marmaduke gazed, gaped, and gasped. The man, who was obviously some sort of professor, seemed surprised at Marmaduke's surprise.
Surely you remember the control room of my time machine.
He indicated the jumble of dials and coils and glass tubey things that looked exactly like what a time machine should look like, now that he came to mention it.
A time machine? Amazing. So, it can whisk us away to any historical occasion.
The probably a professor gestured to a set of levers labelled forwards, backwards, whitherwards, and whence.
It can whisk us away to any occasion, historic or otherwise. Shall we?
He manipulated the levers as though he knew how they worked, and the entire machine began to spin. Or rather, the outside spun, but the inside remained still, so that you could appreciate the spinning without having to get all dizzy. The jungle was replaced with a different kind of jungle, the sort with dinosaurs stomping around in it. The narrator left at this point because you haven't got the stretch target.